Hi, this is Phinney with Storyworthy, obviously. And Christine and I want to thank you for all you've done to help our numbers shoot way up in the past 3 months. We are available on Stitcher, on SoundCloud. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. Keep telling your friends. Keep telling your enemies. Tell anyone that you know to keep listening to Storyworthy because it's worth it. It's worth it.
Oye, es Luis Moro. Están oyendo la historia que vale la pena.com.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm here with
Phinney, and we're coming to you from the set of Divorce Court, a staple of daytime television for decades and decades.
Can you imagine can you imagine going through a divorce? I mean, it's bad enough that for whatever reason, two people that loved each other are no longer going to be together, and then doing that on television.
That's the thing is about Americans want to be on television. It's like sometimes I remember some reporter once telling me, it may have been on this program, I don't even recall, but he was like, you go to interview people at some tragedy site, and they're like fixing their hair before you interview them about the 3 kids that died in the fire down the street. It's like Americans are crazy for television.
Do you think that's just Americans, though, or do you think that...
No, I don't think it's just Americans.
It's everybody, isn't it?
But it, as always, it's like French films always seem better because they're in French. Like
do they?
Yeah, you're like, we have this impression that like foreign films are all great, and it's like I've lived in Europe for a short period of time. There is just as much shit on television in Europe as there is here, but we never see that stuff.
Okay. What does that have to do with divorce court?
Well, if you argued with me and we were married about that, I would have to divorce you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a real storyteller here tonight. Thank God.
Right, not like this, yeah.
And his name is Louis Moro, and he brings forth the topic, how to survive divorce. That's the topic, how to survive divorce. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a pretty big topic because at least 50% of people that get married do get divorced. I was going to
say, yeah, that's got to be, and even people who are in a successful marriage right now were probably divorced at some point in the past, so it's got to be higher. I say 75% of the United States has been through a divorce.
Or their parents went through a divorce.
Yeah, exactly.
In other words, somebody along the line is getting divorced.
Yes, but if we can just keep the gays from getting married, then the divorce rate will stay down.
What does that mean?
That means that's that argument. They're like, the argument against gay marriage is like, well, it's, the sanctity of marriage. It's like, what's sanctity?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right.
Half the people who get married get divorced in like 5 years. That's not sanctiful.
No, it isn't. And it's
also
tricky.
Not a word.
Now, I know Louis has written a book, and I think he's going to be reading some excerpts from that. So maybe he knows how to survive divorce.
He obviously must know something. Since he is here and alive, he obviously survived. And I'm assuming that he didn't give that title to a guy who's never been in a divorce. That would obviously be a bad title.
That would be a bad title. Now, before we get to, because I have a little bit to say about it because I've been divorced twice.
Yeah.
You would say I'm good at it. You could even say that.
Well, I would say that you're experienced.
Before we get to that, folks, I did want to remind you guys that Storyworthy, of course, we're on Twitter, and you can find us there at Storyworthy. And then if you want to support the podcast, and of course they do.
Of course you do.
Then you can head over to storyworthypodcast.com anytime you shop at Amazon. Right. I mean, this is just one way to support the podcast. Right. So what do you do, Hannes?
You click on the Amazon banner and you shop normally. You can buy How to Divorce Your Spouse, Divorce for Stupid. What is that? The Stupid Guide to Divorce, The Idiot's Guide to Divorce.
I see.
You can buy any of that stuff. Whatever you're buying, you just buy it on Amazon, but go through us first. It's one extra click. People.
Exactly. And then, folks, also another good place to find Storyworthy is on Stitcher Radio. We haven't talked about Stitcher in a while, but that's a resource I use every day, Hannes. I listen to Stitcher Radio.
Yeah, Stitcher is awesome.
And that's a completely free app. So head over to Stitcher.com if you want to take advantage of that.
All you kids with your smartphones, get the app.
Here's the thing with the divorce, Hannes. I'll tell you here's how it goes down. There's 2 kinds of divorce.
Yep.
Either somebody lied or somebody didn't. And if somebody lied, it's going to be a big problem. That's the thing. If you have 2 people that got together and then at some point realized for whatever reason, and there's thousands and thousands of reasons that they don't want to be married anymore, if they can come to the table and say that, I don't want to be married to you anymore, in an honest and truthful way, I think you have a better odds at surviving that divorce.
Yes, or at the very least, your relationship in terms of being able to communicate directly with that person, not through a lawyer, will survive that divorce.
Right.
And it's like, it's when like you say, if one person is just lying all the time, then you won't be able to.
Well, the problem is somebody would say, well, then why would you even get divorced if you get along so well and you can just talk to your partner? So in other words, some people think that divorce is the impetus after you've already had an affair, or you're cheating, or you're sexting, or you're doing something that the other person doesn't know about.
But that's like saying, why don't you just marry to everyone you can have a conversation with? I mean, marriage is not just about being able to conversate.
Right.
Or not, it's like, I know a lot of people I don't hate. I'm not going to marry people because that's like saying, oh, well, you're married and you don't hate each other, so you should stay married. Well, no, that's not enough.
Right. Well, a lot of people do, though. I think people stay married all the time because it's easier to stay married than to go through the divorce process. So here's the thing. The first time I was married, I was very young. I was only 25, and he got another girl pregnant. So this is simple math.
Yes.
This is not complicated. I mean, I'm flexible, but not that flexible.
Apparently, she was more flexible.
Literally, I never, by the way, he was 12 years older than me.
Right.
So I thought I was the younger, cute girl, but the girl he got pregnant was 15 years younger than him. So they'll always go younger. I know that.
Yes, there'll always be somebody
younger.
But the
thing is after that happened, like, I literally never talked to him again. Like, he was so cut out of my life. Now, we didn't have children.
Right.
So that was a big part of
That's a huge part of it.
But I was able to just walk away. And so that person has just been cut out, which was a beautiful divorce. That was a beautiful divorce.
You were
because
young
it was
and
clean.
no children. That's why it's like so you just put that in the box of learning experiences.
Right, and who really cares? Now, the second one, that's very, very much more personal because I'm going through it right now.
Right.
But the good news is that nobody ever lied to anybody.
Right.
So that at least we're talking as like human beings.
It just went the way that things go. Sometimes people are, you were together, 11, 12 years.
Yeah.
It's like, well, people are different. 12. Anybody listening to this can think of themselves 12 years ago and say, am I really exactly the same person I was 12 years ago? Probably not.
Well, we have a child together, of course.
Right,
so that changes everything because it's like, I remember the day that I actually moved out of our shared home together. And I remember him coming after me in the car, coming out to the car and saying to me, like, that's it? Is that it? That's the end of everything then? That's it? And I said, what are you talking about? I'll see you in 3 hours at the preschool pickup. In other words, like, you are not going to be separated from the person if you have a child.
Right.
It's going to be very, very hard to have no relationship.
Yeah.
So we better just be friends.
See, when my parents got divorced, my dad was like totally off in his own little world of how everything was everybody else's fault, and he tried to never talk to my mom again. Well, that obviously was a giant pain in the ass considering we were
minors.
She had 2 kids. Yeah. So that does not work well. So don't do that, folks. That's what I'm saying.
Well, no, I mean, I just think, in order to survive divorce, I think there are so many good resources, so many good books that you can read, and so many friends and family and people you can talk to about it, that if you're seriously contemplating it, just don't do the lying route. Because if you start down the path of lying, it just, you can't come back from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, yes, honesty, as they say, is the best policy, and honesty, actually, it seems like it'll hurt more, but it'll hurt, like, once.
Right.
But if you're lying and then you have to be honest later about the fact that you were lying, then it muddies up the waters, and then you're going nowhere. And you're going to end up in the same place anyhow, because that's the other thing is, like, people, well, I want to save this, I want to save that. You can try and save things, but you're going to end up, if you're supposed to get divorced, you're going to end up divorced.
Right.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're not going to eventually be like, well, this'll, it'll work out, or I'll put up with it. It's like, even if there are people, like you said, in the old days, many people didn't get divorced, but it's like then you had your grandma and grandpa living in a house together and never speaking to each other. Well, they might as well be divorced.
Right.
They aren't living together. They're living in the same house, which is not the same thing.
There you have it.
This is the least funny podcast we have ever put together.
It's so goddamn
the one
depressing.
About suicide, the one about my mother's cancer, fucking hilarious compared to this.
It's just tricky because divorce, obviously, so many people have gone through it in some manifestation that it just brings up all these emotions.
But there are people who have been divorced like 4 or 5 times, and it's like, First of all, I'm always like, why are you getting married?
Again, right.
Larry King, you know.
He's my boyfriend, first of all. You know I love Larry King.
You should marry Larry King.
Why not? He's married because he's married to Sean.
He won't be married in 6 months. He's been divorced like 6-7 times. It's like, stop getting married.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, you can have a girlfriend. You can have a living girlfriend. You can pay her expenses. You can have a common law wife, but don't actually get married.
People are very impulsive, Hannes. They want to feel good today. And if feeling good today would be getting married, then people run off and do that shit all the time. That's why they have affairs, because it feels good right now. Yeah. And then they just do it, and they're not thinking down the line.
No, that's true. Most people don't think down the line. For instance, most people who are listening to this are like, why did I start listening to this? I should have turned this off, but my computer is all the way on the other side of the room, and my pants are off. I can't.
We have a real storyteller here tonight, and he has a book, so we know he's going to have something to say.
Oh, a book.
So, folks, wherever you are, stay put, because Louis Morrow is on his way here.
Hey guys, it's Nikki Levy. You're listening to Storyworthy.
And we're back. We've left the divorce court set, and we are now at the Gower Gulch Denny's across the street from the studios, where there are many lonely people who look as if they were divorced sometime in the past 40 years.
Now, listen, you know I won the dating game, and after I was Bachelorette number 2. I won that, which we shot on Sunset Gower Live. Right. And then me and the guy walked over to that Gower Gulch Denny's, and we had a pancake slam or something.
Right. And then you went out with him, made out with him, woke up and found a bunch of gay porn in his apartment.
And he was reading a Bible in the recliner. But yeah, okay.
Exactly. So this, by the way, is thank God you didn't marry that guy, because that would have been a messy divorce.
That would have been so messy.
The wholly suppressed gay guy, and he was a lawyer, so he would have had a better lawyer than you, because he would have had like his teacher come in from Harvard.
You know what? I'll say that. There's another thing about divorce, ladies and gentlemen. If you are getting divorced or going through divorce, thinking about divorce, for God's sakes, go to a mediator. Do not be getting your own lawyers. People are so crazy how they just decided, they get so pissed and they're so angry at maybe what one another have done or said, that they get lawyers and they think that the money is going to be the power.
Right. I've seen Boston Legal. I know how this works.
Everybody loses. And
right.
when
so
the
mediator,
paperwork,
you can go to mediator, which is cheaper for everyone.
It's cheaper for everybody. It's basically sitting down at the kitchen table and flushing it out, rather than giving your money to a lawyer who literally, when the papers are signed, you never see them again till your next divorce.
But except in sitcoms where the wife always ends up marrying the divorced lawyer, who is usually played by Ryan Stiles or somebody like that.
Well, then
becomes a semi-regular in the show, but that's another story.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's here right now, Louis Morrow. He is a writer, a producer, and he's a very busy man. And now he's an author, Hannes. The name of his book is A Professional Parent: How to Raise Fully Functioning, Self-Determining Adults. And you can find him at aprofessionalparent.com. So, folks, wherever you are, please put your hands together for Louis Morrow.
What you guys were talking about before was really on point. One of the things that sticks out for me the most is in relationships, people will say, well, it takes two people to make it work, and it takes two people to mess it up. And there's just a reality to that's not true. It takes two people to make it work, and it takes one person to mess it up. And it's and it's usually the person who messes it up that wants it to be that it takes two people to mess it up. It's always that person. Well, it took the two of us. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. One of you lied. One of you cheated. One of you was covert. One of you, weren't playing by the rules. And it's not about the person who leaves. You could be the person who leaves and didn't mess it up. So it's something to very distinguish. Now, this whole thing about how to survive divorce, it's a great opportunity. Thank you for letting me have this conversation. I will say that the first thing you want to know is that we all have different circumstances, and really, no matter how bad of circumstances, short of violence. This is not a conversation about people who are in abusive relationships, physically abusive. I don't necessarily would recommend someone consider themselves a victim in a verbal abuse conversation, but definitely it's not about physical abuse. That's a whole different conversation. How do you survive a divorce? The first thing I want to say is that you don't. You actually don't survive a divorce. It's like saying, how do you survive a marriage? You don't. You get divorced, and the marriage is over. The marriage doesn't exist. It's dead. And the same thing for divorce. It's a process, but you don't try to survive it. You kill it. Once it's over, it's done. It's dead. Just like the marriage is dead, so is the divorce. Now, here's something else I'm going to say. And by the way, and I'll give you some steps and things that I did, and I've trained people in that work in getting to that place where the divorce is also dead. Now, this was the one that might be a little bit surprising. Co-parenting, especially if you have kids, and I'm in a situation where I have 2 daughters. I'm a full-time dad raising 2 daughters. I've been doing it for 5 years now, since they were 3 and 4. You also don't get to co-parent. That's a myth. This whole thing about, we're co-parents, it's a myth. It's a lie. You were co-parents when you were married. You were co-parents when you lived together. You were co-parents when you were in the same household and you were having the conversation you needed to have. That's co-parents. Once you're divorced and that's dead and it's over, you're now a single parent. You're not a co-parent. You do what you do, and they're going to do what they do. You might have agreements. You might set up understandings. You might have structures. But as we all know, you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. Ain't going to happen. So you can have all kinds of agreements with the other parent, and they're going to show up or not show up. You drive yourself nuts if you try to manage their life with that. And I'm going to address that a little deeper here. My personal situation is kind of unique. People say to me all the time, well, it's special. You're a unique situation because you're the father and you've been raising the girls, and I have them full time. I mean, their mother lives in Malibu. I live in Santa Barbara, Montecito, and she lives here. She lives over there in Malibu with her new husband, and she sees him once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, sometimes on a weekly basis. But in the beginning, it was like months at a time. She didn't see them. And, as difficult as it was, I do have, you were mentioning before, Christine, about, being honest. I actually can get someone wanting to be with someone else when they find their other soulmate. In this case, it was a twin flame. I was the soulmate, but then I discovered this other thing called twin flame. But I will say that I went through some, quite possibly the most painful experiences as a person when you're devoted. At the time, raising a family of 7, because she had 3 kids that I took on. And it took something. And I decided that when she decided to take off, I made a choice, a conscious choice, that my daughters would never experience their father hating their mother. Never. And that began the journey of what's now the book, A Professional Parent. The first thing that I recommend people declare for themselves is never denying your love for the partner, like the mother of the children, or the father in the case of a woman. But I took that position, that commitment. I declared to myself, I'm never going to deny my love for you, no matter what. And let me tell you, the no matter whats were long, deep, and painful. Things that I found out not only after the separation, but while we were married. And I could give all kinds of examples. But at the end of the day, denying love for someone was literally just denying it for myself, because the experience of love is over here with me. And I did some exercise, and I really got clear that when I was upset or angry with her, it was just a function that I wasn't letting the love experience come through me. So she was the source of it, from my view, until I was able to grab hold of it. And then all of a sudden, I'll never forget that one day, there I am feeling this pain of, oh, my ex-wife, I'm with the kids, this experience of love. And then I looked at a tree and I fell in love with the tree. And then I looked at another person, and all of a sudden I was able to grab the experience of love and literally drive it around to other people, other things, and not have it be associated just with her. It was really freeing, separating the two. So that's a big thing. So one is, you don't ever want to deny your love for someone else, because they're over there. The experience of love is with you. And then from there, I started to really distinguish, okay, how do I maintain this? How do I love the mother of my kids, make sure that my daughters never experience their father not loving their mother, because I want them to have that experience. It's their mother. I said, what's the next thing? And then I started to notice things, and I distinguished the next major step for me was we have different integrities. And that gave me a lot of freedom. Because when I could see that, look, I have a version of integrity, you have a version of integrity. They're just not the same. You believe in adultery, I don't believe in adultery. You rather go do this with money, I'd rather do this with money. It's just different versions of integrity. Let me tell you, when you could separate your version of integrity from someone else's version of integrity, you have a whole new space of being with anybody. I have friends, God bless them, who have been in prison. I have friends who are awesome people and everything in between, and that's their choice. We have different integrities. I'm not hanging out with the guy who's I don't want to persecute anybody, but it's different integrities.
Yeah.
And then the other major step, as you start distinguishing, you have different integrities, it opens up the world that we have different educations. We just have different education. My world of education is different from my ex's world of education, from our education right here in this room. And some people have an education that could embrace a whole world of people, and some people don't. So if you take the position from an education, all of a sudden, it's no big deal. It's like, you know what? I went to Rutgers and you went to wherever you went to school. I study this and you study that. There's no conflict because I was very clear that the education separates. And then from there, it really, the thing that was a major turning point, she would always say to me, well, don't judge me. Don't judge me. And I would look at that and I was like, don't judge you. Don't get me wrong. I got reasons to judge, okay? Yeah. I could justify them. And I get plenty of evidence and plenty of friends who are saying, you should hang her, get rid of her, all that, what are you, crazy, all that stuff. But it was very clear, the word judge didn't work for me, but the word that did work was God. And then I started to say, not in a religious way, for those that are religious, that's your education. But it was more from, it's not my job to guide you. Like, really, I can judge you. Of course I could judge you. I'm like, great, don't tell me that I can't judge. I could judge somebody who's doing something that doesn't work, and somebody, just like you could judge whatever you want to judge. You're invalidating judging. Judging's actually pretty good. You should judge what you do. Okay, so and if you don't want to be judged, then don't get on stage. Don't be a comic. Don't go out in the world. Don't put a product out, because guess what? That's the game in life. Getting judged and evaluated, and either people like what you do or they don't. But it's not my job to guide you. And that gave me freedom. That gave me the freedom to really just be with anything she did, how she did it, where she did it, when she didn't do it. The one example I could give was, in the beginning, I had an issue with the time she was spending with the kids, which she wasn't. She just was doing her thing, going through her journey, which is what I always tell my daughters. Where's mommy? Where's mommy? Mommy's going through her journey. We all go through our journey. You're going to have your turn in your journey. And that's the journey story that, people who, quote, want to believe that two people messed it up go through. Well, enjoy your journey. It's not my job to guide you, and we have different integrities. It all just started to fall in place as ways for me to still not deny my love for her, which was my goal. My number one pinpoint was to experience love no matter what. So inside of that, not guiding her, not making those decisions, opened that world up. What that took me to was really distinguishing that whole soulmate, twin flame, who's the real love and the love of the love. Because, you're in a relationship, you believe the partner, right? You take them for their word, you take them for the action. And we had great times. It's not like it was, one nightmare. We had phenomenal times also. But then it's like really clear, you know what? Searching for a soulmate, it's funny because we're all soulmates already. We all have souls. It's like to think that there's a separate soul somewhere that's different than your soul, just us in this room, whether we like it or not. We got the same soul. It came from the same source, whatever that source is. There's no different souls out there. We might have different educations with our souls. We might have different integrities. We might have different ways of living this thing called life. But we're not birds. They got their souls. We're not whatever other animals. We're all humans with the same soul. So it really gave me a lot of power to really distinguish I'm my own soulmate. When I got very clear, I didn't need to search for another soul because we're all soulmates and I'm my own soulmate. All of a sudden, like, you know what? I got it. There must be a twin flame for me out there somewhere. Quote, twin flame, right? So this all started to give me another thing that opened up for my relationship with my daughters. I was mentioning before that I was having an issue about the time that their mother was spending with them or not. And I'm really committed to always looking at myself and how I bring forth whatever I'm dealing with. And I got a lot of freedom because I just saw from, first of all, I was trying to have her be a certain way in a relationship that she wasn't interested in being in a certain way. That's insanity on my part. It's crazy. And I got very clear, the only relationship that I need to be concerned about is my relationship with my daughters. Really, period, end of story. I can educate my daughters, take care of my daughters, make sure that they're fully functioning young ladies and to adults, give them the training and the education to think for themselves, feel for themselves, and be aware of it. And that's the only relationship that I could focus on. It's up to her, their mother, or anybody else for that matter, to have a relationship with whoever they want to have a relationship, how they want to have it. It's not my job to manage her relationship with the kids, and vice versa. Hence, co-parenting ended. It's very clear. This illusion of co-parenting that was created with great intentions when we were married. When we're married, then of course you're co-parents. You're not married, you're not co-parents. It's more of that conversation that's out there that needs to be distinguished and separated. Again, going back to it takes two people to make it work and two people to mess it up. That's a lie. But again, it's so easy to find out who messed it up because they're usually the person who wants it to be two people. And by the way, this is not a bad thing. It's just a place to get from a responsibility standpoint and share where you could grow from and learn from. And by the way, I'm not including the funny parts to this, okay? Okay, right. Okay, so let me just wrap it up then. I would have to say that the two things that I would want to leave people with is you want to start looking at what hooks you is you. And that's the pathway to get to a place where you could have a profound, fully functioning, self-determining relationship with yourself and with others. And what I mean by what hooks you is you is that pretty much any experience you have, any thought you have, any angst you have, ultimately you created it. There's no way about it. It doesn't matter what someone does. They do what they do, and then we create what we create. Now, it's easy to maybe hear it. It's interesting to understand it, but then actually practicing it is a whole other world. But if you want to live in a world of fully experiencing love everywhere you go, you generating it, you experiencing, you allowing yourself for it, you want to get the opportunities that when somebody upsets you, it's an access for you to look at for yourself in your life. I'll give you a quick example to finish it up. So my ex cheated on me. Of course, that upset me, but then I looked at it and said, you know what, I've done that. I could see where I've cheated on someone in the past, and I was a jerk, quite frankly. She went and instead of spending time with the kids, she went out and traveled and went to all kinds of places and just took off with this new guy that she just met like at a party. The next day, she's a couple of weeks later, she's like traveling all over the world with, literally. To the point where anyway, so literally. But I could see, you know what? I could get why I was upset. I'd like to be doing that. I'd like to get up and just go up and travel and look around. But if you dig deeper and just a little slice more, the truth is for me, I didn't. I wanted to be a parent. I wanted to raise my kids. To me, it was important to be there. It's just important to me that I would rather be with my kids rubbing their toes than be anywhere in the world. And that was my choice. That was her choice. Lastly, it's all about creating. I know we hear that word over and over again. It gets overused sometimes. And there's something about breathing. You could say all you want about it, but you always have to breathe. You always got to eat. You have to drink water. You have to create. And that's really it. There's no way out. Either you create what you want to create for yourself in your life, or you don't. And that's it for me.
Okay, here I have a couple of questions for you, Louis. First of all, how long did it take you to get through the divorce process? I mean, you were angry, obviously. She cheated on you. So how long from that moment did you get to this place of peace?
It took, I gave it a year as far as keeping the relationship, try to keep the relationship together. So I gave it a year, and it took me, I remember ironically, the freeingest moment for me was the day I told her I'll never deny your love for me. And we went, so about a year and a half. No, it was about a year because she went off to another country with him, came back, and it was predictable, that whole thing of, I don't want to be mad, I don't want to be with him, I want to be back with you, let's heal the family, reunite. So I gave it a shot because that's, I was... So
wait, after she traveled the world with somebody, you let her come back in your home?
Well, it's the mother of my kids. I was more committed to the long term.
So she came back into your home, and then you said, you need to sleep on the couch because you...
No, I didn't. In one day I forgave her. It was over.
Wow.
Look, having sex is like a handshake if you really get down to it. What's more important? Well, I mean...
I must be doing it wrong.
I never felt a handshake like that.
No. Well, I'm not...
How big are your hands? Ladies and gentlemen.
We have to go right, or we got to go blue. We got to go blue.
But
but you're saying, she came back, you had sex, and you're like...
No, she had sex with someone else. You have to take the physical part. When you look at a commitment to growing old with someone and raising kids and a lifetime, and I was more committed to my daughters having their mother in the house.
Right. I heard you say, how she cheated and you had done that in the past, but you didn't do that in the past with children in your marriage, did you?
No, of course not. That's a whole different... No.
Right. So that's the thing. So you seem to be just like, well, I just forgave her, and that's that. And you just seem so flippant.
Well, he tried to forgive her, but obviously they wouldn't be divorced
I went
if
through
he.
a process to get
So
there.
how long was your process?
It was about a year. It was
About a year.
It was about a good year. Yeah, a good year.
And so what is this part about she said she was an alien? What does that mean? What are you talking about?
Well, there's a world out there of people who think they're aliens and they believe in aliens, and there's aliens out in the world, and God bless them, and maybe there is, maybe there isn't. The jury's still out.
and
right?
you didn't know this when you met her?
No, that was a surpriser. But he was an alien too. They were alien from I forget the name, but Atlantis.
So how long you met this woman, you got married, you had children with her, and then she says she's an alien. How long is that period?
That was 6 years. She met this guy. He said he was an alien, and she
Followed
found herself.
suit.
Was her twin flame.
So for 6 years.
So if she had met a guy who said, I'm actually a leprechaun, and she would have been like, hey, I'm a leprechaun. It sounds to me like she's the kind of zany person who's looking for somebody to tell them who they are. And you were telling her you are a perfectly average woman, and you are a mother, and so forth and so on. And then this guy says you're an alien. She goes, yeah, you're right. You know what? My husband,
this
he's wrong.
doesn't
You're
make
right.
sense.
I'm an alien.
Well,
it doesn't. Well,
No,
it
but I
doesn't make sense
mean,
to
how
me
does she
because
go
we
to
don't-
be from a rational person to an irrational person? When did that change?
You got me.
I mean, I just look
See,
at you,
I
Louis.
I know the party we met at. I mean, I'm sorry, I know the party they met at. But again, it's literally when I tell you the alien story came in one day to the next.
I
Now,
just
this
feel
other
like
guy was an alien for a while.
okay.
Yeah.
Now-
no,
now
but
she-
but see,
She was also into tarot cards and that.
well,
whole world for a
remember
long time,
that
so-
I have so much crazy experience in my family. It's like she was playing the part of quote unquote normal. It's like she's looking around, she's seeing the way people act who don't have thoughts like, you know what, I think I'm an alien, and she did. Christine, what I'm saying is, I've never met this woman. I never will meet this woman. I don't think she was a little crazy or not at all crazy. And then suddenly she meets this guy and he's so charismatic, she just goes off the deep end. She was always susceptible to stories that
crazy
rational
town.
people would not have gone to. There's a lot of people who have mental illness who are very adept. They're not so mentally ill that they can't act like they're not mentally ill. Part of their power is that they can look around, they see the world, they see how they're supposed to act, and that's how they act. Literally, the word acting. They are acting in their daily lives.
Louis, did she tell your children do your children know she's an alien?
There was well, yes, in the sense that, yes, the answer is yes to your question. I also want to clarify that I really am a believer of to each his own, and your right to swing your fist stops at my nose. And if someone believing they're an alien gets you through the night, and you're not a violent person, and you want to believe that you're from another planet, enjoy Pluto.
Right.
So back to the kids.
But it seems
Now,
like
more
but then-
importantly, the kids.
I
yeah.
mean, in a way, it's a better way to survive divorce. It's like my first husband got another girl pregnant, so then it was just over, and it was easy for me to separate
So there's
that
no kids
out.
involved. It's a no-brainer.
Right. Also, but if she says she's an alien, maybe that also was an easier way for you to separate, because it seems like, wow, we really
No, I was willing
aren't
to go.
kindred
I was willing
spirits.
to stay married to an alien. I had no problem. I'm an
Oh, you
alien.
were?
No,
I'm an
Louis,
alien, but-
Louis pretty
Yeah,
open-minded, I'm saying.
Oh,
come on,
wow. Okay. Okay.
If you being an alien is, and by the way, alien sex is awesome.
Wow.
Okay, to be very clear.
Oh, no. I'm
Okay.
perfectly willing to believe that.
This is not a
Did she ever
dysfunction.
dress up like Lady Gaga in the outfit with the planets
no,
surrounding it?
I-
No,
I-
that would be
But
crazy.
she chose to leave. The alien
Yes.
was just a side part.
Oh, she found another alien, and
And
she chose
so,
to leave with that
okay,
alien.
so she left
I like,
with
by
him.
the way,
Wow.
what you said about people disparaging judging. You're absolutely right. Judging is good. We're all like, oh, don't judge me to American society. Don't judge me. It's like, no, it's okay. It's part of our makeup. We
Scientists
judge
actually
things.
like being judged. They come up with something, and then they put it out to their peers, so their peers could go after.
Yeah, it's like
Comedy.
we've turned
you
it
get on
in-
stage. Not because you want everybody to agree with you.
Right.
You want to get on stage and see if you got something to say that people are going to agree with you.
Absolutely.
Testing it out.
So it's confidence as well.
Yeah. It's called the truth action.
We've
It's
turned it into a negative word, and it isn't a
It's
negative
not a
word.
negative word.
So let me ask you, will you get married again, Louis?
Yes.
Someday you want to. I mean, like, in other words, you still think like that it's a good institution.
Yeah, I'm all for the partnership. I've always loved that. I'm 100% in. I love it. I love the idea of you know, that one partner, that one team.
Yeah, so do I. No, I like that idea too.
I'm a junkie for that. So I got no, you know, I love that. So
Me
yes,
too.
yes,
No,
yes.
me too. And since I've been separated for almost 2 years, it's lonely, man. It's lonely.
Well, that was my hesitation. There's also no filibustering in my life.
What's that mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Like these crazy politicians, when they get up there and they start like
talk.
No, I understand, but
so if I want to go do something, I could just go do it.
I see.
If I don't want to go do something, I could just go not do it. Like that. So it takes, and I'm an easy guy to get along with.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am extremely easy to get along with. So I don't bring filibustering to someone's life. So it would have to be someone who, you know, can get, hey, you want to go to a movie? Yes, no, great. I will.
Or if you
always-
said, I want to go to a movie, and she goes, I don't want to go to a movie, then you just go to the movie,
Cool.
and
Oh,
she
no.
doesn't. So you're just sitting there when you come home, like, how could you go to a movie without me?
Yes,
I'm just
have the
curious.
stuff.
How long did you know this woman before you, became?
It was a couple of months, and then we hit it off.
It was a short relationship, though.
Or 6
Before
years.
marriage.
Yeah.
No, but before you got married,
Yeah. I mean,
you weren't together very long.
No.
Well, I just think that's something that people should consider as well. Maybe don't get married. I mean, not necessarily you,
No,
but other
100%
people.
correct.
Perhaps
100%.
stay together or
We
just
have
be
different
together for a
educations.
couple of years and then get married.
You're right. That we have different educations, and it took something for that. Now, I also my version of integrity, my version of education. You kind of take someone at their word. Doesn't mean they're going to keep it all the time. They're going to try to do your best. So if you say that you're committed to being married, and you believe the person, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And so
right.
there's a certain belief, and by the way, and it was hot and heavy, and I still love her. Like I'm so glad that I never let that part die.
Yeah.
I don't want to be with her.
Yes, that was
Right.
very
Very
good, by the
clear.
way. I want to compliment you. It was the best thing, because my dad, totally didn't get the whole, I'm going to never deny my love for your mom. Yeah, he was out of his fucking mind, and he was always
Well,
blaming
and then-
her for things that she could not possibly have been guilty of.
And then I had a bad situation when my parents split because my father had an affair, left our family when I was 15, and then I didn't see him for 9 years because my mother never tried to foster that relationship. He never tried to come into my life either. And my mom, I would say, why doesn't my father ever come around? Where's Dad? And she would say, he doesn't love us, honey. He doesn't love us anymore. He left. So she kept repeating this, he doesn't love you thing to me. This is really bringing me
Yeah,
down,
this
Louis.
is
Way to
really-
go.
No,
Well, let me-
you want to consider. I could offer you something. Two things. One is that he obviously only did what he knew with what he knew.
Right.
And two is sometimes it's easier for someone to run away than to deal with the wrath that they might be getting from the other partner. Mm-hmm. Has nothing to do with you.
Right, but I'm just saying, as a child, everybody goes through these different, and it's better, obviously, if we can all just be at least having a conversation.
100%. To be a fully functioning, self-determining adult, like people ask me all the time, well, what's a professional parent really? I said, well, a fully functioning, self-determining adult. Well, how do you know you're one? Because you could have any conversation with anyone,
Yeah.
anywhere, about any topic, anytime, learn in the conversation, be in the conversation, stay in the conversation.
Honest, you think you can do that,
No.
can't you? You can have any conversation with anybody, can't you?
Oh no! I mean, I would say that no. I mean, I think you're trying to throw a compliment my way, but it's not. I'm,
No, I
I'm
think-
deflecting it because
It's not easy.
I don't. It's not easy to
Right.
have. I mean, I think I am more able to have calm conversations with people about uncomfortable topics than many people.
I think you
but
are,
that
too.
doesn't mean that it is anywhere near 100%. Although there are conversations that I will completely be uncomfortable with. Again, I'm from Wisconsin. It's like we're comfortable with almost nothing compared to people
Yeah,
who
push it
live in
down,
Wisconsin.
stuff it down, don't
I
talk.
am Dr. Phil.
No, I could
but
have any
compared to this
conversation.
guy, compared to Louis, I'm Phil
no
Donahue.
topic.
I don't know. I've run out of things. Can
Okay.
I just say
Topic
one
off
more
the
thing?
table.
Yeah,
before
go
you-
ahead.
I really found it interesting when you keep saying there's no such thing as co-parenting.
Absolutely.
I
not.
believe that, but it's like I think it's almost a better phrase to say. Basically, if you're living separately, you have two full-time parents.
Well, that's
You
up
have
to
two.
the, that's
That's
up
what
to
it
the
is.
parents.
But you're parenting. It's like there's a mom and there's a dad, and they're both parenting. They're not parenting together, like you said, and you can't coordinate everything. You can't make everybody. You can do some, but it's like if you're with mom, you're with mom.
I know,
And
but
if
you
with
know
dad,
that
you're
my
with-
ex and I have a very good relationship.
No,
We're
I know
friends,
that.
and we co-parent. I mean, I would call it co-parenting. If somebody
Of course
asked
you could
me,
call it co-parent. You can call it what you want, but the reality is you have a relationship with your kids, and that's it.
right? However,
and
no,
that's
I'm
it.
just saying, personally, he and I, we live a block apart, and we are constantly in communication 2 or 3 times a day about small things. And I'm just saying that if we weren't trying to do that together, then I would say, okay, perhaps we just have two separate households and it's two different things. But we actually are very aware of where her toys are, where things need to be, where her shoes are, who's picking who up. So there's a communication open.
Yeah, exactly. So you have great communication, you have great agreement.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if somebody said to me, "Are you a single parent?" I would not say I'm a single parent. I would say, I'm her mother, but she also has a father who's very much in her life. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, it's okay.
Because if I would hear single parent, I would think like somebody's divorced, or someone was deceased, or somebody was completely out of the picture, and like he is definitely giving his 50%. I'm just saying, in my situation.
That's the beautiful thing about language is however we word it to get empowered, that's what counts. So, for example, if she's empowered being an alien, power to her. No, I'm saying it like in a serious way. Like as long as you, again.
I don't know, Louis. I'd be pretty pissed if I were you. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but look at him. Look at the serenity in his eyes.
I know, but
and
also
we are sitting here angry that we've run out of Diet Coke.
Well,
See?
it depends on. I mean, are you
Serenity
independently?
in my eyes. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, there's also
They're
you get into
deep eyes. Louis, I feel a stirring within me. I haven't done.
if you've
I have to
been
go.
You could have any conversation.
Yeah.
If you've been married for a period of time and somebody just splits,
Bang.
has an affair, and travels the world, okay, so there's not, I'm just saying there's so many levels of problems. I mean, financial being one of them.
Oh,
These
I
kids,
could take this story a whole place.
Yeah.
I was actually homeless with my girls for a while.
okay, so yeah, I mean, there's
Literally
so
in
much
the
going on.
streets,
Wow,
trying to
Louis.
recover with two girls.
Yeah.
And
See.
so that's a whole other.
Right.
See,
So
and
it's just,
and you being able to forgive ended up being to your advantage, and this is the hardest part about forgiving. And I've heard this a million times in a million different variations.
Forgiveness didn't even exist. People spend their time. I want forgiveness. Well, I'm going to forgive. Really? Let me
you
know the
seem
truth.
like a very forgiving person, though, Louis.
Well, it's not even. It's who am I to forgive anybody? I'd have to be on it with them to have to forgive them. See what I'm saying? Like you'd have to first be under some kind of spell.
Well, you were in a
with what they
marriage
did to
with
you.
a trusting, legal document, and that seems to have some credence.
Absolutely, and that's why the process of distinguishing the conversations you're in gives you access to the freedom. I didn't wake up this way.
Right.
It's very clear that I did go through my spaces.
Right, you said about a year and a half,
Yeah,
but now
so-
you
so-
really
And I still know, even to this day, I still have to let go of things. I still have to remind myself sometimes. You know what? I love her,
yeah.
and for me not to love the mother of my kids. So what am I not being responsible for? Because the experience of love is over here. Like I love the tree, like I love people. Doesn't mean you're going to be with them. Doesn't mean you're going to marry them.
I am going to marry a tree, by the way.
He also fucks trees, but that's another.
God, sequoias.
Where do people find a professional
Yeah, it's
parent?
got to
by
be
the way?
sequoia. I'm just-
Where do people find the professional parent, the book?
aprofessionalparent.com.
Okay, good. And listen, you want to play some Shotgun Storyworthy?
Let's go. Knock it up.
That music can only mean one thing. It's time for Shotgun Storyworthy.
The game where our storyteller spins the story-worthy wheel of truth and tells a true 1-minute story about the topic it lands on.
So everybody, say it with me.
Spin that wheel!
So the topic is plans. Now, what a coincidence! Plans, right? You get married, you meet somebody, and you have kids with them, and you raise their kids, and you have plans. And so you go on vacations, you go on trips, and you have these plans. And then you work, and you have even more plans. And then you build a business together, and it's all plans. And just when you move up from L.A. to Santa Barbara, and you're living in Montecito, and you got a beautiful 3-family home overlooking the ocean, and you got kids, and they're going to school, and you got the plans. And what happens? An alien shows up.
And that's what happens. Life happens when you're making the plans, right? So something is going.
Or
Wow.
what's the other phrase? If you want to make God laugh, make a plan.
Yeah, if you want
Yeah.
to get laugh, tell me you have plans.
Okay, Louis, let me ask you something. Tell me a little bit about your movie, the one about Cuba, about
Oh,
the embargo
yes.
on Cuba.
Yes.
Because you're Cuban.
Yeah, born in Cuba.
And
Oh,
you
you were
s-
born in Cuba.
Yeah, I'm Cuban.
Oh.
As Cuban as they come. So go on.
Wait a minute. How did you get here then? Did your parents emigrate or they?
Yeah, we actually escaped from Cuba to Mexico. And I was in Mexico as a kid. So
And this was not part of the big.
I was technically an alien too.
I guess so.
That's true.
We
I
all
guess we
are.
should have been. Yeah, we should have been saying this was Alien with a capital A previously. That she suddenly declared.
No, but let's hear about this book because it was really popular there for a while, right?
Well, no, the movie, yeah, the movie was great. The movie,
The movie Cuba's Love and Suicide.
Cuba's Love and Suicide. It was in theaters for a long time. It was really great. In Florida, it was in 10 theaters, in AMC theaters, and it beat Miami Vice. The only movie that competed with it was Little Miss Sunshine at the time.
Oh, wow.
So I was very proud that an independent film could get that many legs. What I didn't know at the time when I was making the movie with a great team, by the way, was that we were breaking the embargo on Cuba. We're the first filmmakers in 50 years to make a movie in Cuba since Earl Flynn. So all of a sudden, Peter Bellissimo actually told me that. He's a great man in the film industry in Hollywood. And he was in the movie with Earl Flynn as a kid, as a boy.
Wow, funny.
And he let me know that that was
They
the
hadn't
last
been
movie
there
ever
yet.
made in Cuba by Americans, and you were the next one.
But this was not a piece of nonfiction. This was just it wasn't about politics.
It was a feature. It wasn't a documentary. It wasn't about
It was
politics.
a love story.
Yeah, a guy who goes to Cuba and discovers the one thing between love and suicide.
Is
Pineapple
Come on, you
juice.
gotta see the movie.
aliens.
You got to see the movie.
Okay, okay,
A
awesome.
1956 Chevy in perfect
Download it
condition.
at Amazon.
And you
Yeah.
did you write that
Yes,
movie?
but before you go to Amazon
Hey,
to download it, please go through storyworthypodcast.com.
It's
Did you-
available at Storyworthy.
Yeah, that's right. Did you write that movie or who?
Yeah, I wrote it with Lisa France, who's also an award-winning director. I've got a lot of awards with her, Independent
Yeah.
Spirit Awards and things like that. And then also Damien Lichtenstein, who's also a great producer, writer.
I love his country.
Director.
Liechtenstein.
Well, listen, we
Yeah,
can't
just
thank you
for me.
enough for coming today.
Yeah, that
to
was awesome.
Storyworthy.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you,
Professionalparent.com.
A professional.
And I would like to meet your daughter someday.
Yes, for sure.
Excellent.